everybody. Welcome to Alexa Developer Office Hours. We are here again today. It is the 15th of August, and it's great to see some familiar faces out there in the chat. Hello. I don't have a lot of new announcements for you today, so we're just going to go ahead and bring on our guest here in just a second. But I do want to let you know, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to check out our Voices of Alexa series. They just published a few more of those, and they're really cool videos, really interesting stuff to see what our Alexa developers are working on, what they're doing. And if you're watching us on Twitch, just check them out on the YouTube later. If you're watching us on LinkedIn or anything else, you should be able to see that on the YouTube. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest today. This is Chris from Ear Reality, and we're going to talk today about interactive story games. Very excited to have this conversation. Hi, Chris. Could you introduce yourself to the folks at home? Chris is one of our Alexa champions. We've been having multiple champions lately visiting us on the chat. So take it away.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me in the show, Amanda. Nice to see you. Hello, everyone out there. I hope you can understand my English. I'm from Germany. My name is Christian Mahnke. I'm the CEO of Ear Reality. I also am an interactive fiction writer. We've been creating interactive audio stories for Amazon Alexa since 2017. We do it both as well as a publisher. So we have our own IPs and storyline, which we produce. But we're also a digital content agency and have been creating intriguing and amazing interactive audio stories for companies such as Disney, 20th Century Fox, Audible, several game studios, and public broadcasters. Our journey has been, quite difficult.
Yeah. It's a lot of IPs to work with.
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing and great experience for us, especially in the startup phase. Really cool to meet such competent people, to get their insights, see how they handle things, what it means to have such a huge IP and to work on it. We're absolutely glad that we fulfilled all the brand's quality promises in what we did and had great customer or partner relationships with them. Yeah, and also we're, I guess, quite successful in what we do. So we won the Amazon Game Skill Challenge in 2019 with one of our first stories. It's the Iron Falcon. And we're also one of the few, I think it's only Accenture besides us, one of the few featured agencies by Amazon Alexa as well in Germany as in the US. So it's good to see if you're in line with Accenture.
That's awesome. We got some folks saying hello from Boston, hello from Scotland. So we got some folks from all over the world. You're coming to us from Germany, so it's evening for you. It's daytime for me. I'm going to go ahead and link your website in the chat for people who haven't checked it out. That's at twisttales.com. And that's where you post all the links to the various stories and stuff you've been working on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So tell me a little bit about interactive audio stories. Every time I bring up interactive stories, and people think about like the old school text adventures, they're like, oh yeah, like Zork. But there's so much more to it than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what are interactive audio stories? Basically, as a definition, they blend traditional narrative in audio with user interaction. So very much it's like a common interactive fiction story, but you can experience it as a listener and with with voice commands, with using voice technologies such as Amazon Alexa, you can talk back to the story. So what you get is a very immersive experience, which also empowers hands-free and off-screen gaming. That is one of the huge advantages we see, the ease of use and the intuitive use you have when playing interactive audio stories, especially for people who are visually impaired or blind. We get a lot of response from them on our Facebook site or through other social media because normally those people have great difficulties or it's nearly impossible for them to play something or to become a gamer. They're in a way excluded from the world of video games. And with interactive audio stories, for the first time, they can be gamers. And that is something that they appreciate so much that like their voice is being heard by the story, that their choices matter, that they can have an impact and an influence on the game and the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our best reviews are from people who suffer from like disabilities like that. But also, we have which is a funny anecdote. We have a child-directed storyline. It's called The Magic Forest. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we've only released 1 or 3 episodes for English-speaking regions, but in the German versions, we have now 18 episodes.
Wow.
The storyline has been played by nearly 160,000 users in the last years, which is really amazing. My favorite review that we found in the Amazon store was from a mother, apparently, who wrote, "My daughter, 4 years old, loves to play the Magic Forest and engage in the adventure with the companions there. But even more, my own mother is engaged by it, and she suffers from dementia and is
Oh,
almost blind. But when she plays the stories, and she is like, I think it was 91 or 87, something like that,
wow.
then she truly becomes alive again and gets engaged. And for the mother, it was even more the joy to see her own mother playing these stories, getting all these emotions, like enjoying doing something and
Mhm.
having an impact again, than watching her own very young daughter exploring the world.
Wow. That's an incredible story. So they're really truly an all ages experience from the
Yeah.
elderly all the way down to kids can experience these stories. Um, what's special about interactive stories compared to just listening to a story? Like I could just sit back and listen to an audiobook, but what makes the interactivity pop for people?
Well, our formats transform passive listeners into active participants. It's gaming beyond the screen, if you want it like that.
Mm-hmm.
So normally a linear narrative has like 60 minutes of audio, which you listen to, and normally you fall asleep or you stop
Mm-hmm.
listening to it. In our stories, we have a pacing of about 90 seconds between the user interactions. It depends on the story and the audience we're targeting because it's a hybrid. So we're targeting gamers who
Mm-hmm.
want very quick times between the interactions. And we also have like normal audiobook listeners on the other side who would rather lean back for a longer time and remain passive and only do the major choices. So on Amazon Alexa, what we went for is 90 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
the pacing between interactions, because it has to be quite fast so
Uh-huh.
people do not stop feeling engaged. On the other side, you have to have a certain amount of time to make something happen in the story,
Mm-hmm.
like create the scene, create the emotions, the expectations, the tense, and then you have to provide the choice and the options for the user. And then there is a lot that you can play around with. Like the stories are very rewarding. First of all, you're the main character, so you're the protagonist in this world. Normally, this is like a blank paper. So the attributes, the behavior, well, sure, it's pre-written, but it's defined by you and the way you want to experience the story. And you can also decide by this what the main character does in the story. And by that, you can impact the outcome and you get surprised. Sometimes you have unexpected results or things don't go the way you want them or expected them. Then you have rewards in terms of story progress. So you have a classical hero's journey. You start off as a beginner or an amateur, and you're weak, and the world is evil. And with the story going on and your choices, you're like improving, you're getting better, getting stronger, you're forging alliances, or you're solving crimes, or whatever, depends on the genre.
That's tricky, right? Because sometimes if you start out a story as like kind of a weak protagonist, you don't feel engaged with that character yet. So that feeling of like becoming more powerful is probably really important to some of the RPG based stories, I would say. Right.
Yeah, exactly. For myself, I'm a gamer. I'm a video gamer by heart. Great games like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Divine Divinity, Fallout. I love them all. I love all of their worlds. And of course, an interactive audio story is different because you don't have the visuals. And we consciously and by intent don't use visuals
Right.
in our stories, because if we would do it, well, then we could just create a video game.
Right. Right. Right.
So yeah, we try to focus on what the really is at the core of an interactive audio story and the situations people are in when they want to play them or play them. And what we also have, we are building all of our own stories and client projects with our own game engine Twist. We created that one 6 years ago and we are constantly updating it and adding new features. And it's a browser-based software with a visual interface where you can create your flowchart, write your texts, provide your continuations along with synonyms to ensure that everything is working with speech recognition and so on. And also, we use variables. So, in a way, we can memorize what the player has been doing in terms of choices and give these choices certain values. So,
Oh,
we
right.
really simulate like the choose your own adventure games, or we simulate a role playing game, because in our stories, you have an inventory, you have certain attributes, skills, events in the world that happen. And the world also, in some stories, responds and reacts to your earlier choices. So, for example, if you insult a beggar early on in one of the fantasy stories, 15 minutes later, you meet him again, and the story remembers that you have insulted him, and he won't help you then.
Oh, interesting.
So,
So, is
yeah.
that engine you're talking about something other developers can take advantage of as well?
Pardon?
The other developers can use this engine to make games.
Yeah, but they don't have to be developers because you don't have to code anything with our software. Just log in into the browser and then you can draw your flowchart, write your text. So it's even addressed more to writers like myself. I'm a technical noob. I'm honest with that. My co-founder is actually the IT genius who created the early version, is now the CTO of our company, leading the IT department. And yeah, you don't have to develop anything, but if you're a creator and you want to create some intriguing interactive audio stories, you're welcome to shoot us an email or contact me on LinkedIn or visit our website. Yeah, come gladly introduce you to Twist, the wonderful interactive storytelling tool.
I can drop your LinkedIn in the chat if you want me to do that, just so
Yeah,
people
sure.
know where to
Yeah,
reach you if they have questions about how to use the engine.
yeah.
Since this is we'd always like to talk tech here, and we like to talk users. We like to talk about like how people are using Alexa, what people are making, and also like the business and the technology side. So let me first of all ask, how hard is it to get, once you've got this interactive story, how seamless is it to actually put it on Alexa? What's the technical consideration there?
With Twist, our game engine, you only have to click a button.
Oh, really? It's quick. It's pretty quick and easy then.
Yeah, I think if I can do it, everyone can. Yeah, we have actually two buttons for Alexa. One is for handing in for certification only without publishing. For example, you have the Amazon Alexa policies. So sometimes it's not really clear before Amazon team has checked on the wording and the content of your story, if that is allowed or not. So before you start producing the audio, you can click on the first button and just send your text draft to the Amazon Alexa team, and then they will get it and check it. And once you get the approval, you can then produce the audio or use the Alexa voice and then hand it in for the real publishing. But both are just a click on a button, but it ensures that you don't produce audio files which you cannot use later on because they might inflict with some legal or policy issues.
policy. I suspect it's trickier with the children targeted stories.
Yeah, it's very tricky and also depends on the country you're living in. For example, in Germany, you're not allowed to include anything in a children's story. So in the skill description in the Amazon store, you're not allowed to include a link to your own website. In this, yeah, in the stories, we once had the issue that we used the word in a fairy tale. The main protagonist was going down into a wine cellar, but just to fetch, I don't know what it was, a chair or something. And then we got a response, oh, this is an abuse of drugs and alcohol. It's not allowed. And we wondered what they meant with that. And then, yeah, we had to change the wine cellar to an apple juice cellar, and then it worked.
That's such a funny anecdote. Yeah, no mention of wine being stored in the cellar. Just the cellar with something else in it. That kind of reminds me of like the old Nintendo days where you'd walk into what was clearly a bar and it would say like coffee up on the walls because it couldn't show bars.
Yeah, but I understand the policy. I mean, better to be safe than sorry. So this is understandable, but we do not believe in problems at Reality. We only believe in solutions. So what we did was we splitted up the process of handing it in for publishing into handing it in for approval first. So you don't produce the audio or waste your time. And once you have this, then you can publish, and it's just one more click on the button. So I think people can do that.
And you often use voice actors to produce your audio content rather than using the inbuilt Alexa voice. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, sure. First, because many people might wonder why we use voice actors. That is for a reason. First of all, is our main market at the moment is still Germany, or the DACH region, like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And the AI voices for these regions aren't that good as the English ones. The second reason is that a human voice actor, until now, and maybe some years in the future still, is not able to provide the depth of emotion and tense that you want to have in an interactive audio story. What we are doing now is we started experimenting. So if we have prototypes of new stories, we release them in our portal and tell people, hey, it's a beta test, you can play into the story. And we use AI voices for that. And then we ask users, or we carefully analyze what is going on. So in Twist, we have a section which is called reports. So we can track the user behavior, like dropout points, the choices people made, etc. And then also we built in some ways, like we ask our users all kinds of stuff. What do you think about the length of the story, the length of the paragraph, the length of the sentences? What do you think about the main characters, the sidekicks, or the voices? What do you think of the tonality? When would you like to play? Do you play alone or together with friends? Or do you play focused on the story, or are you rather doing things aside? So we try really to gather all kind of information, which helps us improve the experience here. And our users are very, very responsive to our surveys. Yeah, guess what? Okay, we can ask the chat. Chat, are you with me?
Yeah.
When we, so all the time we include surveys, which are basically just a recorded either audio file or by an AI voice. We just get the message, hey, thanks for playing this story. Do you want to participate in a short survey of 3, 5, or 7 questions? The rate at the beginning, if we place the survey before the start of the story, the participation rate is at 15 to 20%. I think every marketing company is dreaming of that. What do you think? Yeah, what do you think is the participation rate in average in our stories if we place the survey at the end of a story.
Oh, this is a pop quiz for chat. Anybody
Yeah,
want to take a
this
guess?
is the pop
Anybody want to
quiz.
take a guess? What do you think the participation rate is of that post story survey?
Yeah, if you put them at the end of the story. And now we can see if it's Boston or Scotland who is providing the best answers.
Has any guesses today? 2%?
Okay.
Nah, I bet it's higher. I bet it's higher than that. 10%? Got some guesses in chat. 10% from Twitch. 80%. Ooh, that's a high guess from Scotland. 10%.
Okay, I'll wait for another 15 seconds or
Maybe if
10 seconds.
anybody else has any guesses, you're good at getting that interactivity.
Yeah, we have quite a range here. Okay,
Pretty big
so
variety.
let me unravel. Yeah, let me unravel the mystery. The participation rate in our surveys at the end of a story is at 93.4%.
Wow, that's even higher than I thought 80 was a huge guess.
Yeah, but
That's crazy.
yeah, best maximum respect goes out to Scotland.
you
80%,
got the closest without
yeah,
going over 93%. That's
and the
a
bold guess. Yeah,
really
it's
good
absolutely
response rate.
crazy. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy, and it shows you the power of engagement in interactive audio stories. And it's a power we want also to convert into interactive audio ads. Because if you have a survey which is built in the same way than the story, because I think it's seamless for the user. You know, you have the
Okay.
story, you make your choices by talking to your device, be it the Amazon Alexa app or our website, which has also speech recognition, or our mobile app, which has also speech recognition. So you get the story, you listen to it, you talk back to the story, and then you get a survey and you listen to it and you talk back to the survey. So what happens if you have suddenly an interactive audio ad? Well, you listen to it and then you talk back. That is what will happen. So I
Because
think,
it's the same format as what you were already engaging with.
yeah, exactly. There is no interruption, there is no break. No one is asking you to click somewhere or to enter some text or whatever. You're just staying in the immersive experience, in the entertainment mood. And I think that is an absolute core value to this, yeah, niche format that we are in.
That's really cool. And does that also translate to really good retention for your users in terms of how much they come back to the stories?
Yeah, that totally depends on the amount of content that you have. Because once a user has played through your story, he is probably not coming back. This is a philosophical question. Most people in my team believe that the power of interactive stories is that you can play them again with a different outcome. But
Yeah.
I'm very skeptical to this. Maybe I'm biased, but I think the true power is that you will play them once, but in the way that you want them to be.
Right.
Because I've seen studies from the AAA studios, such as Activision Blizzard, etc. They build their huge AAA games with a $1 million budget, and they experienced the same. Like 80% of the users play only once.
Play only once, right?
And only 3 or 5%, I'm not totally sure, maybe it's 5.3.
Yeah.
Yeah, percent of the people play more than 2 times to really try to, I don't know, in Knights of the Old Republic, you can become a Sith or a Jedi. So one time you want to be the Paragon, one time the Renegade. That's all fine. But does it change anything on the story? No. Everything that
The story
happens
itself
in terms
is
of plot, yeah, the plot stays the same. Only because you are now a Sith, you're not playing on a different planet or something. It's still the same storyline. And if not even a AAA game studio can achieve that, but also if they don't have to because it's working, their games are selling and people love them. So I think the answer to the question, hey, is it about replayability or not, is not that easy. For some it
Yeah.
might, but I think for most people it's more this one-time immersive experience. I lean back, I get my story, I'm identifying myself with the main character. It becomes my hero's journey at the same
Mm-hmm.
time. I can play around and experiment with a different role, like daring things I would normally don't do, like fighting a dragon in my normal
Mm-hmm.
life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
or
did a
allowing.
survey about this once too because I was curious about the same thing you're curious about, which is what kind of choices people make. And you're right, most people do only go through the story once. And like, if you give them the choice of being a hero or a good guy or a villain, like a hero or villain like Paragon or Renegade, most people want to be the good guy. It's like another 90%. It's like 90-10 because people like that to be the hero of the story. It's a rare breed that's going to pick the villain, and if they do, that's their second time through the game usually.
Have you
Those are your come back and play second time.
have you ever tried to be the villain?
Oh yeah, I do it all the time. I played Mass Effect
Okay.
as a renegade. But see, I'm lucky because my husband plays a Paragon, so I can see both sides.
Okay, okay, that's very practical.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
we
tried
get to play both.
Yeah, when I replayed Mass Effect, I tried to play it as a renegade, and after the fixed choice, I regretted it and became good again.
You want to be good? I like to do the evil side. It isn't so evil though; it's more sassy. But there's
Yeah,
that. What I think is fascinating. What I think really works for people is you have that choice, and just the fact that the choice exists, that you could have done that thing and instead you did the good thing. It's meaningful to a lot of people, right? Like they get to make that. They get to make a decision themselves.
sorry, you were lacking just a little bit. Can you just repeat,
Oh,
please?
sorry. I was just saying that what choices in the story is really meaningful to players.
Yeah. Um, well, that really depends on the genre and the setup of the
Mm-hmm.
story. Most of all, it's moral choices, which are very
Mm-hmm.
difficult on Amazon Alexa, for example. They
Right.
can conflict with the
Hmm.
policy. For example, the question, um, imagine there is a train coming and you see two children playing on the railroad, one on the left side, one on the right side. You can only save one. Which one? That question is forbidden
Oh.
because it
So you can't
forces
do the
you.
trolley problem with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly, because it forces you to basically kill someone by not saving him. That's the logic
Got it.
behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So it would only work. I've written a book about how to write interactive stories for voice, and in that book I have a huge chapter with practical examples of what is allowed and what is not allowed if you write for Amazon Alexa. And I went through this with the Amazon Alexa team to check on that. It's not like 100% assurance, to be clear here. It's
Mm-hmm.
just for orientation. It might be that you come up with exactly the same example that I have or something similar, and they will still say, no, it's not allowed or it will be allowed. But it's more an orientation for you to understand the principles.
Mm-hmm.
These cases are judged and how they are considered and ranked in which category, like not allowed, allowed for adults only, or guided users, or yeah, children can play them alone. So
Got it.
moralic choices, to get back to the question, are the most intriguing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
whom will you save, the young person or the old person, blah blah blah, and so on. Always this risk and loss,
Mm-hmm.
but also if it's an emotional question.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For example, someone insults you, and you see that the person maybe in the story is not a bad person, but he behaves bad. How do we respond now? Do you try to be friendly to see what's going on, or do you insult him back or turn away? And that gives people a lot of to think about how they
Mm-hmm.
behave in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Or also, if you have risk and chance
Mm-hmm.
uh, choices. For example, hey, you can take the stairs when you're like try to catch up with a criminal. You're a detective, and you have to catch him and run after him. You can take the stairs, and that's a safe way, but it will cost you time. or do you try to jump out of the window
Oh,
as a shortcut, but then you could probably break your leg? There's a
oh,
problem.
interesting. So
Yeah,
that book you're talking about is available on your website. Correct?
yeah,
Yeah, I've read parts bits a lot, not the whole book. I have read parts and bits of it though, and it's really cool that you've got a chapter about like Amazon policies and like what kind of things you can put in a story. I think it saves a lot of time for authors that maybe
yeah.
aren't
That
sure what
was,
kind of story they can write or just need the inspiration even.
and also for the Amazon Alexa team, I think everyone is helped with if there's a little bit of more guidance here in concrete examples. That was just,
Oh,
yeah.
Brian has to drop for a customer meeting. Well, thank you for tuning in. Good luck. We'll see you. Brian, thank you so much for coming by today. I was about to ask. I know you've also adapted stories from Disney and other IPs. So when you're working with an existing IP, there's going to be some additional challenges there. There's going to be some additional like branding challenges and other things that have made it extra special. So what works best with you're working with an IP that already exists?
That totally depends on the IP. I mean, if you think of Disney, they have probably, well, amongst the most famous IPs, which are spread in
Mm-hmm.
so many media and formats. Like you have movies, series, games, podcasts, graphic novels, um, everything story related, audiobooks, and so on. Huge list here. So their universe is spread out very far. And also, they have production plans for everything that will come up in the next years. So if you work with such an IP, you really have to understand what are you allowed or what is the story allowed to tell as a new element in this universe. And especially for an interactive fiction story, this is very difficult because the user is asked for choices.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if you create an interactive story upfront of a movie as kind of marketing instrument to engage fans before the
Mm-hmm.
movie comes into the cinema, or if you have a successful video game and like the follow-up game is coming, like the sequel next year, and you want to bridge the gap, then there's also a gap in the story between like the first movie or the first game and the sequel. But
Right.
you're kind of predetermined to where your story has to end,
Yeah, it has to end
which
a certain where the sequel starts. You have to land there
exactly,
somehow. Mm-hmm.
exactly. And that can be tricky with the choices because you then have to weigh exciting and challenging choices against choices that do not impact too much on the universe. So what you can do is you can look for a side character no one
Mm-hmm.
has explored yet, or you invent a new character just to introduce the changes in the world without telling too much about the real protagonist and what is going on. Or you try that like you have different outcomes in rather the last third or quarter of the story, but they will all merge into one ending. Like they all end with the
Right.
same scene, and that is where
Mm-hmm.
the sequel starts. So it gets unified with the follow-up content products again.
Do you find it difficult to write satisfying endings for interactive stories? Because I know a lot of times interactive stories they kind of branch and then they, like you said, fold back into the same ending. Is that a challenge sometimes?
It depends. Like if you're writing children or like child-directed stories, it's very
Mm-hmm.
easy because you're cutting, like you create much shorter
Mm-hmm.
episodes, and you're rather thinking in terms of episodes. So that helps.
Mm-hmm.
If you create a huge storyline, like a very dramatic and serious fantasy or post-apocalyptic story, then this could be challenging. But there are some tricks. We will also like provide webinars in the near future
Oh,
just to coach people, and if they're interested in how to write interactive fiction stories, especially with our tool, and how to write them for voice. But I can like give one solution here. What you can do is, the problem is you don't want to split your ending too much.
Right.
Otherwise, the cost and the time gets too high. So what you can do is you create kind of modules. Let's imagine we have a storyline in which we have 6 different factions that we encounter, and we can have an impact on each of these factions. Either they ally with us, or we ruin them, or we befriend with their leader, or we kill the leaders, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, we have 3 different variations for each section. And we simply memorize what happens, what has happened when the player played.
Mm-hmm.
And then we automatically set together from these modules like an ending scene, like an outro. So, okay, you did your last choice, and then comes the outro. And this is what happened in the world after you became the king of your country or whatever, or the queen of your country. Faction A, blah, blah, blah. Faction B, or character A, B, C.
Right.
That one went into the wild and lived there with his dog. And this one, she went into the bars in the city and lived there as a barkeeper, whatever. So you have the feeling like that the adventure that you've taken and the choices that you made,
Mm-hmm.
they are shown to you again, and you can see, this is how they inflict the world in the next years.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like what the Fallout games do. I think it kind of reminds me of like New Vegas, where there's the different factions, and they say, "Oh, you sided with this faction, you didn't side with that faction," and then they tell you like what happened, what the fallout literally from all those.
Example.
Yeah.
Very good.
So
Fallout
that
does
works.
it.
That method works well in interactive audio games as well. That's interesting.
Yeah, sure. Because it's not about audio or visual. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, if I remember, I don't think that they have any cinematics in the endings at Fallout. I
They
think
usually just show a still picture, like they show a
one or
picture of the
2
person.
pictures, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
like for the atmosphere. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's mostly text. So I think the main focus in an interactive story, audio
Mm-hmm.
story especially, or like a text story, should be on the story and on the characters. And everything besides is a luxury that you can weigh if you can afford it or not. Like, if that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
true, um, I mean, we've been working with big companies, Disney, Audible, and so
Mm-hmm.
on, and there's something like a brand quality promise.
Mm-hmm.
So if they
Right.
create such a content piece, it has to be amazing in terms of sound quality, sound effects, music, voice actors, etc. But if you think of famous books, for example, Harry Potter, it's
Mm-hmm.
just printed on normal paper.
Right. Good point. Right. Everybody's paper is just paper, but you have to
Yeah,
think about the background music and the audio acting and everything.
yeah. Once we have 10 million interactive stories, I think
Mm-hmm.
it becomes relevant again to have great sound effects and famous voice actors and everything. But in a niche, it's not important. Concentrate on the
Mm-hmm.
story, concentrate on the gameplay, concentrate on the pacing of your story so it fits to the user's situation and preference.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have achieved more probably than most have done.
So really, the quality of the writing and what content you bring to the
Yeah.
table is going to be the most important thing up front, and how interactive you make your story.
Yeah, exactly. And really reflecting on, how does it play? If I would play my own story, how does it play? And there are multitude of ways that you can do and that you can think of. For example, if I give you a choice, um, you can run down the stairs or jump out of the window
Mm-hmm.
to catch up with the prisoner. I can leave the choice like that, and maybe it's more exciting because you don't know about the consequences. You might wonder, does a writer think that if I jump out of the window, that I might get injured. So should I take it or not? Or what is the risk here and what is the chance? Or I could tell you what the risk and the chances are and still use a variable and roll a dice. So it doesn't have to be necessarily that when you jump out of the window that you get injured, but maybe you want to see at least a glimpse of the consequences.
Right.
Or some people always want to know the consequences. They hate if I tell them you can jump out of the window and then they hear a dice roll and hear, okay, you broke your leg. They say that was I wasn't told that.
Oh, he wasn't. Yeah, weren't warned. Yeah, there's different ways
Yeah,
of doing it. Like I've seen games where they literally show you like what you rolled on the dice. Like Disco Elysium does that, for example. Like they'll show you the dice on the screen and say, "Oh, you failed that
yeah,
conversation." And I've seen
yeah,
games where it's completely hidden and you don't know.
yeah. And some people hate rolling dices at all because
Mm-hmm.
they say, if I make a choice, I'm already rolling my inner dice.
Oh, true. That's true.
And if I then make a choice, so that, and I think there are so many ways to explore here, and user behavior. It's so interesting, like
Mm-hmm.
the psychological part in that. They say, if I made a choice and you asked me to make a choice, why do you roll? This is like if you wanted me to buy a newspaper and I would say, okay, convince me. And you say, it's a great newspaper. It has the latest news, everything, great print. And I say, okay, I buy it. And you say, wait, let's see and roll a dice if I
Oh,
will sell it to you.
yeah. That's definitely a debate that, like, as somebody who is a DM for Dungeons and Dragons, like, when do I make
Yeah,
people roll and when do I not make people roll?
exactly.
And for somebody who's developing these stories, do you think they should just go with their gut on this, or they pull their users?
Pardon?
If somebody like, there's different methods of choosing how to do this. If somebody was out there like they want to write their first interactive story, is it better to just choose the method that you think you like the best, or
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah. I would totally advise, if you start writing
Mm-hmm.
interactive fiction stories, write the story, write your second best story.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so don't take your best idea, don't take the world that you love and that you have like in your drawer for 10 years. Just take another story, but write it in the way that you would love to play it. And what you then do
Mm-hmm.
is you analyze what happens in terms of user analytics. Where are the dropout points? Maybe it's because you're using too much yes no questions. So if you see a pattern that there are more dropout points when using yes no questions than if you're asking a more concrete question, you might want to try and exchange some of these and see again what happens after 2 weeks. Or you can build in surveys and ask your users directly, hey, would you like to have more yes and no questions? Because they're very easy. Even if you're washing the dishes, you should be able to say something like yes or no, or get the question. Or do you want more complex questions, such as, do you want to break into the jail to free your gang member, or do you want to rather blah, 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 blah? Because then I have to be more attentive. So
You have to pay more attention
use,
to it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, use the user, ask the user. The first version of your interactive story and your first story, so to speak, will never be the best one. And there is no such thing as a perfect story. It's just not there. All that we can do is try to improve our stories and improve our writing. And the good news is that is also enough.
Oh, I guess I'm having some audio issues apparently. Well, this is a new computer, so I apologize if my audio is cut out at any point during our conversation. I didn't realize that was happening. I'll take a look at it after the stream, maybe. Um, hopefully we're still picking me up on the stream. Just to be more careful about that. New PC, baby mic issue. Um, Sorry for interrupting there. I just didn't want to have anybody. If my voice did cut out, I apologize. Uh, I was gonna go ahead and segue into like kind of my last line of questioning, which is business side, monetization strategies. What are your different strategies for making money with those different stories? Because I know there's a bunch of different ways people have tried, like consumables or um, purchase skills. What's your method for monetization right now?
It's a very good, a very good question and a very relevant one. And there is no easy answer to that. I can only give our own answer. That might be surprising to a lot of people now. We do not monetize. Yeah, plot twist.
Okay.
We do not monetize directly.
Oh, right.
So, yeah. So what is the problem? The problem, because that is, you have to understand the problem first to understand my answer. It's not difficult to monetize in a technical way. And you have different options for that. You named them like single buys, premium, subscription, upsells, consumables. All of them are great. But there's one problem that is like a hindrance, I would call it. It would solve itself over time, which is people shy back from buying on pure audio.
Oh, yeah.
That is one thing, but I think it's only a hindrance. And with people getting more and more used to it, that will solve itself. Even if we're speaking like of amounts of $1 or $5, I think people will take the risk to do that. But you wouldn't probably buy a house by using your voice command. You absolutely want to have something visualized if you do that barter at that moment. But I think, yeah, the technical aspect is no problem. The psychological one is a minor one, a hindrance. But your main problem will be what are you going to sell and to whom? So before you can sell something, you need an audience. You need to have discovery and reach. And that is actually the main problem with Amazon Alexa. It's very difficult to get traction on your Alexa skills from outside. People have been experimenting with Facebook ads, with SEO, building websites, building newsletters. It's very difficult. If you do not get promoted, and even then, this is like a one-time event, often like a newsletter mentioning or something, or a banner spot, you get some several thousand users on a weekend, and then you see like the drop again, and maybe 10 or 20% stay as users because it's a broad spectrum. The conversion rate cannot be at 100% naturally. So it takes time to build an audience. It mostly works for third-party developers over organic growth. And if you don't have the audience, you cannot monetize. Once you have the audience and the user engagement, in the child-directed story we saw earlier, or I told you about earlier, the forest der Zauberwald in Germany, 150,000 users and 9.8 million choices. So user engagement, yeah, this is really amazing. We have a playthrough rate of, I think it's around 40%. So the average user plays 40% of all of the episodes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and playthrough rate, if you have Spotify, a podcast, and you have a playthrough rate of 30%, you do not know what people did in this time.
Oh, right. But you have that information.
Yeah, maybe I left the room and came back after an hour. You might never know if you're Spotify. But in our stories, we get a feedback every 60 to 90 seconds because the user makes a choice. So this is an incredibly high rate because there is no blind spots in it. And we would monetize this story, but it's not allowed in Germany to monetize child-directed stories.
Oh, right.
This is different from English-speaking regions. So we have the curse and the gift of being in Germany. Otherwise, we would monetize that. We're working on a solution of the problem. So what we did is last year, we built a portal for all of our single stories, and we put them all in one place. You can imagine that like the Audible of interactive audio stories. So our portal is called Twist Tales. It's also like the website link. it's there as an Alexa master skill available in Germany and English. It's also on a website, and you have all the stories there. It's available on app. It's available on Discord, and soon will be available in cars.
Nice.
And this portal, this is what we're going to monetize. So
Okay.
you will have like a user management system, and you can like go for a subscription or buy single stories, no matter what your device is. And then you unlock them on all the devices. Like you can go on our website, or you will be able next year to go on our website, log into there, buy one of the stories, and then you can like go into the Alexa skill or on Discord or in your car, whatever, wherever the Twistates portal is, you have unlocked that story there.
So basically, you're creating a master library of different stories, and the skill will be like your key to unlocking the stories.
Yeah.
So I can use this skill. So instead of each story being its own skill, you have like a hub skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
Yeah.
cool. Really cool idea. Yeah. And what you said about like getting the user base and getting the attention, and then looking for
sorry, again, yeah, there are these audio issues.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what's causing that. I'll try to talk more into my mic. You were saying that it's important to have that user base before you. Yeah, right.
It depends. Of course, you can live from a hardcore fan audience of 100 people who do like buy lots of consumables, or you could go for upsell. You can also like cooperate with someone if you find a sponsor for your story, or if you find someone with an upsell. So what we also did, we had a cooperation with the game studio, and we used the Amazon Alexa shopping feature. So people could buy the game directly after playing the interactive audio story related to the original video game.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that was very cool and very interesting, because we built in a survey, and again, it showed the power, because 80% said they haven't heard of the original game before. And of those 80%, 90% said they would be interested in playing that game now, because they got intrigued by the characters and the storyline. So I think this is a huge chance for IP owners, because nowadays building a game is not what a game studio is looking for. You need to build an IP, especially with AI coming up. AI will change the world we creators live in, and it will accelerate the shift from a single content product in one media to building an IP which rolls out on several medias. And so far, all the big entertainment companies, they're fighting for the same spaces. Either it's linear audio, or it's linear visual or interactive visual. For example, a podcast, an audiobook, linear audio, linear visual like a graphic novel or a series, or interactive visual like in a video game or a mobile game. But the segment of interactive audio is a market segment yet untapped.
For sure, for sure.
And it's with topics like in-car entertainment on the rise. The automotive, your car becoming an entertainment center, which it has never been before. That will be a huge segment. So there are opportunities here for people to become engaged and think about, hey, what kind of stories or gaming experience can I create for people who are on the drive, be it the driver itself or the passengers, or like multiplayer, which is tricky in audio, depends on the inventory and the car and the technological system. For example, multiple microphones, etc. But these are amazing opportunities. And with AI as well, we're also working on our own AI solution. We believe in human creators, absolutely. And I believe that AI is at the moment a mediocre storyteller at best. But if you combine them And if AI assists a human writer, I think this is amazing. And I'm really looking forward at Gamescom. We will present our new solutions
Oh,
to the brands, game studios, and everyone we are talking there with. So I'm really hyped for this.
it's always been my dream to have an automatic DM for Dungeons and Dragons, like an AI tutor that would just walk me through. I love to DM, but it would be great to see if an AI could do that task. And I've always thought, like, for years, I've been like, that's the coolest idea to have this interactive story. But I also really believe, like you said, the power of people, designers, creators, custom text. So yeah, there's definitely space for all these ideas, I think, to coexist, and it's an exciting time.
Yeah, there is a blog post. I can put it here in the chat.
Yeah, sure. I can post it.
Everyone, or I can send it to you, and you can maybe put it in the chat because otherwise I have to log in the chat.
Let's do that.
This is about someone who has tried this. Yeah, it's already happening, but I wouldn't expect too much. We're still in the phase of AI dungeons, so what you get is very generic. And this is like logical because how does it work?
Right.
It's the probability of the next letter. So it gets very repetitive and it always goes for the most common ideas and choices, basically, because the AI is
Right.
not sentient.
It goes with the most basic because it basically averages everything out, right?
Yeah, and also I would miss like enraging our DM when we try to break the rules or to burst his plot he carefully planned for weeks.
I'm just going to go to the chat real quick because Brian Tarbox also mentions each group of new users have to be trained. Yeah, that's true. When somebody's coming to your skill for the first time, they will know all the ins and outs of your skill. And we are almost out of time. So next week, totally different topic. We're going to have the Tech Docs team on next week. We had a lot more design conversation today and not so many technical questions. Next week's going to be more of a technical week, so I like to go back and forth a little bit. We're going to have our technical documentation team on. If you have questions about tech docs, bring those questions to that team. We're going to talk about that. We have 2 minutes left, and then we got to bounce. Any parting words for the show?
No, not really. I hope I haven't bothered you too much. I'm sorry, I'm a storyteller, so I can talk for all day long.
I could talk about this stuff forever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can always talk about worlds, universes, stories, characters. I'm so much intrigued by that. But I would know in the chat, what's your favorite story, world, or universe? Your personal favorite world? I would really interest.
Good question.
And especially why.
I'd love to hear from people if they have like story worlds, like in game. Actually, could be any story world, right? It could be Marvel, Disney. I'm a big fan of Marvel, although I haven't watched as much of the new stuff. I like the stuff from a little bit.
Which one from Marvel?
Well, I used to be. I don't want to say used to be. I used to be a very avid comic book reader. So I read like every Deadpool comic I could get my hands on. It's my favorite character. So that's one answer from me. But I'm also excited to play Baldur's Gate that just came out. I haven't played it yet. Probably Star Wars from the chat. Yeah, that's good universe though.
Yeah, but it's a choice and it's a daring choice if you know that it's boring. No, it's not boring.
No, I don't think so.
Star Wars is actually a very fascinating universe because basically it's a fairy tale for adults.
Yeah, it's true.
And I'm always, I don't know if I'm allowed to say your name here and read it out loud, so I won't do that.
Yeah,
but I'm always fascinated in the movies. What I like best in the Star Wars movies, if they are on different planets, and I just see them walking through the towns and see all these alien races that they never introduce.
Yeah.
Like the high technology on one side with spaceship, like jumping around millions of light years in a second. And on the other hand, you have these strange dinosaurs drawing some wheel cards on a dusty road inside a town. And this is so intriguing. I love the varieties of rather third row species that they have in Star Wars. It's so intriguing. I'm so curious. How about you? What does you intrigue with the Star Wars world, if you want to write it? And of course, the Sith are cool. They're evil, but they're cool.
I really like the Mandalorian. I like that show.
Yeah.
The bounty hunters.
Who doesn't? Yeah, great character.
I cannot see my skills in production under your skills in the app. Oh, okay. That's one that, since we're about to sign off for the day, file a contact us ticket for DAG to take a look at. Or I'll put this up on the screen real quick. If you want to ask more questions, join us on the Slack channel. People have been really on the ball lately debugging stuff. If you click on that Alexa Design Slack, you can continue the conversation with us there. I gotta call it for the day. I could talk about stuff like this forever. But yeah, use contact us. That is the way to talk to DAG. Our developer advocacy group will get you sorted and figure out where your skills are. So definitely.
But we will only help you if you tell us your favorite story world.
Tell us your favorite story world. You don't have to tell us in the ticket, but tell me later on the Slack. We'll start a new conversation. Okay, Chris, thanks so much for being on the show today. Good luck at Gamescom.
Yeah, thank you. We're going next week, Tuesday till Friday. So yeah, absolutely excited to be there.
I've never been, but I hear it's fantastic.
Oh, you have to be. It's really amazing. Yeah, great.
Maybe I'll try to go next year. All right. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much. We will see you next week with the Tech Docs team, and the next week thereafter too. So bye, folks.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Amanda.